It is, looks like 6:05, so are there any changes to the agenda? And Mr. Doug Nelson will do the presentation, basically.
Well, I'll orchestrate the conversation because I will give input, Gus and I will give input, and then we'll need some direction from you so as we get started. Obviously, Gus is here on Zoom. He'll be here for about an hour. He's got another obligation a little later this evening in Beaverton, so he'll be with us until he has to Zoom off. Thank you on behalf of McPherson and Jacobson and Gus and I for selecting us to work with you to do your search. The superintendent search and selecting the superintendent is the most important thing you do as a school board to hire your chief executive officer. As we said in our presentation, stability, strong leadership and stability in leadership equates to strong student performance over time. And our job is to find someone who matches your needs and the needs of the NISA community. And with that match, bring someone who will bring that leadership and that stability. And obviously for Gus, this is personal. This is his hometown. And it's important that we do the job that you want us to do. A couple of things as we get started. First of all, and I'll let Gus jump in with what he'd like to add too. You're at a sweet spot. I think Gus explained it when we did our presentation. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of superintendent turnover. Not so sure there's going to be that much turnover this year. It's still early, we just don't know. But that puts you in a good position because people who are looking for a superintendency don't have as broad a choice. So I just kind of put that in perspective. We're also starting at a very good time. I always look at superintendent searches as there's a season to it. And it usually starts right after the first of the year. And so our calendar, the calendar we've talked about, we'll hone it a little bit later, puts us so that you'll be advertising as people are starting to think about and looking for a new superintendency. People who've been in their position, who might be thinking about leaving their current position, usually start thinking about that over Christmas. They've had that break that they can kind of have some time to themselves. So when positions come open, they're a little more open to looking for a new job. And so we're hitting that, what I call the sweet spot. And that we will be in a good position for people who either want to or we can not convince, but encourage to apply for the job. So that's kind of, I think, important to keep in perspective, where we are in the process. And making a decision by spring break is really the best possible time to search and to hire a superintendent. Second thing, and I don't have any doubt that your board works well together, but I think one of the important things to keep in perspective, one of the questions Gus and I will be asked as we talk with candidates, what's the board like? How do they work together? Because a person who's looking for a superintendency wants to know that coming into a position, they're coming in to work with a group of people that work well together. Hiring a superintendent is kind of like a marriage. And so you want to have a compatible relationship. And people who are looking for superintendencies are very concerned about that, how that relationship will be. It's not a warning. It's not saying anything is wrong with the board. But I just want you to keep that in perspective. Your behavior is critical to candidates for the superintendency. Gus, do you have anything you'd like to add, kind of as to begin before we get started here?
Just appreciate being on, and thank you for your indulgence having me online. And I think I concur with Doug that the time is right on. You're a little ahead, and I know there's a big regionally in this. I think Baker City's open as well, so you have Baker City that people may be competing, that people will be competing against. But I think you're out early, and I think it's a perfect timing. So thank you, Doug, for having one as well.
Baker City just posted today, and I'm not sure, they said information will be forthcoming, so yeah, I saw that. So let's just start the process, and I'll just jump from item to item if that's okay with you, Pat.
That's great.
Okay, so in general, and this is to the 4 board members here, what's your expectations for the search? I'm going to start with Maribel. What's your expectation for the search?
I would like to see there be a variety of almost like mindsets and values, and not just one group of people's opinions or what they're searching for. I want to see a variety of faces, new faces even, coming to the table to have an input on what it is we're looking for.
So that's the stakeholders that we would bring in, okay.
As far as expectations from you or from the whole process?
What are your expectations for the search? And what expectations do you have of Gus and I?
My expectations from the search is just to get obviously the type of person that we want, but to get it out there, what kind of a school we are, what they can expect by being here, and I want somebody that comes in wanting to be in this area, wanting to be part of this community. I don't want to say it doesn't work if they don't live in the community, but it's nice when they are actually part and want to be part of the community rather than commute. But that's, I guess, my expectations is to find somebody that wants to be part of this community.
Okay. Pat?
My expectations, or what I really would like, is we need a leader who will lead us forward. You know, someone who has a vision of what NISA is and can be. And NISA is probably, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best school district in our local area. We have great teachers. We have a great staff. We have really good students. And, you know, they're like kids everywhere, but we have a lot of staff who can help direct them. But I really would like to have a superintendent who is a leader and who has a vision. And that's in part why we're very glad to have you folks here, is because it helps us get our direction together so that instead of going this way, this way, this way, and this way, we can go one direction.
Susie?
I want a superintendent who's here for the long duration. I don't want someone will be here and use this as a stepping stone to go somebody else. I want someone who's going to live here, be involved with it, raise their kids here, be part of the community. And I want someone who will listen to us and who will follow through. That's what's important to me.
Those are all, I think, important. They are all important aspects of looking for and finding the right person for NISA. And that's our job, to help find that person. So what I hear you all saying is you want someone who can come in and lead the district and who will be here for the community and will represent and will understand the broad, the breadth of the community
has a really good point. We would like a superintendent who follows through, who, when there's a problem, can give us a solution to the problem, or, research the problem.
Innovative.
Yes.
And if he or she says, I'll take care of it, they're gonna take care of it and get back to us and say, I took care of it, this is what I did. Not just,
You're all talking about qualities and characteristics that we're going to get down on paper, so hold those thoughts, because we'll come back to that, the kind of person you want. So I hear you saying, I want someone with integrity, I want someone with follow through. If they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Am I hearing you correctly? Okay. Well, let's take a look at the calendar that we've proposed. Included in your packet are two different things. The search checklist for the district, and this is what Megan needs to keep, help keep everything on task. And so she'll make sure all of these things are happen as we go through them. So in our first board meeting, that's what we're doing today. We'll get the necessary information to get things started. And we know that Megan is the point of contact, and I will be working directly with Pat as the board contact. You have my business card there, but please put on there my cell phone number. It's 541-410-8292. And you can call me anytime. I have my cell phone with me almost all the time, except when I have it all the time, I should say. If any of the other board members contact me, I'll always make sure Pat knows we've had that conversation, so I always bring that back to Pat. But let's take a look at what we've got here is this draft calendar. One of the first things we have to talk about is advertising. And our advertising, and you have included in that advertising venues and pricing. And what we're proposing is that we start advertising on the 8th of January. So we've got to pull a lot of information together, and that's what we'll do tonight. But we need to be clear where we want to advertise. And included in the fee, as you've seen, we would advertise on our website. We have people who've registered with our firm, and they will be looking at for positions that have been posted. We'll put it on our Facebook page, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, and Indeed. And then we recommend doing the School Boards Association in Oregon and Washington, and the Administrator Association in Oregon and Washington. That's just all part of what we do. So
not Idaho?
Idaho doesn't have, we've tried to do the service with Idaho, but they don't have the same, they don't. So that's why we recommend doing AASA, which is a National American Association of School Administrators. It will go out to a variety of people. We've asked in the past for both the school boards and the association in Idaho, and they don't provide that posting service, which we found interesting. One of our consultants does happen to work for the Administrators Association for Idaho, and we'll work with him to get the word out. His name escapes me at this moment, because he and I have chatted about other positions. I don't know how they get it out, but they don't. They don't have that service perfectly.
Idaho does have a lot of, it had some turnover.
Yeah. So, and this is a question that you'll want to wrestle with, maybe a little, maybe not, but given the large Latino population here, one of the things you may be interested in searching for is a superintendent who is a Latino, who would be bilingual. And if that's the case, you would want to make sure you would use the ALAS, which is the National Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. Gus, also through his through his contacts in the state, would be able to contact, and I think we'll do this anyway, all the Latino administrators within the state of Oregon. Gus, do you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have the Oregon Association of Latino Administrators. It was founded about 22 years ago. I'll be in contact with their president and their board to do local Oregon postings, as well as, I know Doug mentioned, ALAS, where we can do that posting regionally, but also WALAS, which is also the Washington Association for Latino Administrators. So that gets all the administrators in Western and Eastern Washington as well. So we'll work on trying to, again, we'll spread the word in terms of the posting.
So these people, organizations listed are the ones that are included in your fee?
Not AAS. AASA is, there's the next page in your packet, Pat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. AASA is an additional charge, and ALIS is an additional charge.
And how much is the charge? Oh, obviously I did not.
May I ask,
You bet.
so administrators search, looking at these postings through either of these venues, do they have to have a membership? Are they paying to be able to access these postings?
AASA probably, because that is like any association, you are a member. Most superintendents are members, and assistant superintendents. Have to be a member of ALIS to, Gus, to get the contact on on that posting.
So it actually goes out, and what I would do as well is, I'm actually president of ALAS, so I would work with the CALSA, the California Association of Latino Administrators, and they have a really big pool of candidates, a big pool of folks. And I've worked with California, Oregon, and Washington just to spread the word that there's an opening in Eastern Oregon and in this side. So I would do that myself with my contacts.
In most of the job listings and postings will go out for like in Oregon, for example, Confederation of Oregon School Administrators, they do a weekly blast when positions are posted, and you don't necessarily have to be a member to get that blast information. But AASA probably, and as Gus explained all this. So the question to you is, do you want to spend the additional monies for those two national postings? And, and that, when we talk about that, we've talked about your fee not to exceed, so that would be within that not to exceed amount.
Do you have a suggestion? I know one says it's 30 days time for, for that to be used. One has 6 weeks. Do you have a suggestion on which time of the year is best utilized for that time frame? Is February going to be the best 30-day use of that fee, or versus March?
Well, I would like to start advertising the position January 8th, and that's the season. When people are starting to think about changing positions, or we can start to approach people, that's the time to do it. So,
But if someone doesn't decide till February, they're going to hear about it?
they may hear about it, but if we're going to get your proposal asks to have your superintendent in place by the end of March.
Yeah,
If we're gonna do
we're
that-
looking at closing applications like the second week of February, so that 30 days would hit most of that.
Exactly. The proposed closing date is
February 12th.
February 12th.
Yes.
And so that would be the best time, and it will go out. In addition to just this general advertising, as I said, we have people who register with McPherson and Jacobson. We will send an email blast out to them to let them know the position is open, plus we'll let all our consultants know. So we're casting a fairly wide net for people who might be interested or in whom we might be interested, because we'll go out and talk to people and encourage them to apply. And if any of you know of someone that might be a good candidate, please let us know, because we'll go after them. Somebody that you've come across, someone who may have been a NISA graduate who's superintendent someplace besides Gus. Don has already talked to me about someone he knows that is a principal, I think still a principal, but that is from the area. So, we'll talk to that person to encourage them to apply. So those are some, and we'll use any and all means to get a really good pool. But that's the time. It's January going into early February. Yay, nay on this, or do you want to
I
think
don't need
about
to
it?
vote on it. No,
Well, what are your feelings?
I think it wouldn't hurt if it's within our budget that not to exceed, then why not?
We do need to advertise.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Jeremy?
I think the more applications you can get, the better chance you are of finding who you want. As long as we don't get 400 applications.
Well, we might get
I guess that's a
400
good problem.
applications, but that's their job to weed it down to
Right.
five.
To wean it down.
I'll come back to that, but yeah. Our job is to bring you people we believe really fit your criteria, and we'll get it down to a usable list.
So in your experience, how many superintendents have you pulled from that AASA pool versus what net you already cast?
That's a good question. It's sometimes hard to know who all has applied. I'm thinking for one of our positions, Oregon City, 2 of the finalists were from out of state. I think at least one, if not both of them, were contacted either through our website or through AASA. For Hillsborough, we had probably a combination of out-of-state and in-state. Gus, you vetted the one candidate from out of state that was a finalist. Do you know how that candidate became aware of the opening in Hillsborough?
I called her initiative.
Okay, so somebody he knew. So it really varies. I would say we probably get the smaller percentage than our regional stuff, and through our website.
Do we need that?
I would like to pursue the second option there, Alice.
Alice? I think your question's a good one, Jeremy, but I don't know that I can say definitively it's going to cast a wider net. Question is, does it catch any fish?
Right.
And I can't give you a very definitive. And, we're going to get a pretty wide net regionally anyway.
Crystal?
I just want to remind you, the board's budget, you have money. I just feel like we're kind of getting caught up on not very big amount of money. So just a reminder, you do have that money in your budget to spend.
But I'm also supposed to save money.
I understand that. I'm just saying,
I
don't
know
let
what
that
you're
be a
saying.
hang up, please.
I know what you're saying, thank you.
I think it wouldn't hurt. The wider the.
I'm on the fence for it, so if you guys want it, I'm all for it, but
What do you
I
think,
just
Pat?
don't know if you're gonna pull that many more.
Yeah,
I
I don't know if you're going to pull that many more.
I would agree. I'm not sure you're going to pull that many more. It's just what we standardly recommend, and because it does make it a national search, but by being on our website, it's a national search. And we'll email blast people that have contacted us. So in some ways, particularly, I would say for the size of NISA, probably fewer people would come into the pool. Portland, we know their superintendent just resigned, probably more appropriate for somebody like Portland, like Hillsborough.
Right.
I don't know, Gus, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's, I think when we're looking at the east side versus west side and the size of the school district, I think there's going to be a pretty good draw from the local area. I think people mentioned Idaho. I think also eastern Washington, the Tri-City area, lots of parts of maybe Bend, Pine area. So, but sometimes there's people that want to live back home, and from the west side, like Doug mentioned, they've gone to the west side, they want to come back. So I've seen that in Washington State quite often, actually. People want to move back to the east side. And advertisement, I think it really depends on what you want and how wide a net, because as Doug mentioned, we're going to get you a pool of candidates that meets your characteristics and your desire, that your desire to make sure that there's enough to interview. Typically you interview, 4 to 6 candidates typically, but it's up to you to decide that. But we'll bring you the people that have the greatest characteristics that meet what you're looking for your next superintendent.
I think I'd say Allis and not on AASA.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Definitely Allis.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
Okay. And then we'll work with the Allis plus the Latino administrators that Gus's administrators groups in Washington, Oregon, and Southern Cal. So we'll get, the net will be wide, for sure. Okay, let's talk about stakeholder group meetings. We identified January 5th, which is the Friday right after the first of the year. The reason we've done that is that's the best day for Gus, and he will be here in person. Gus, I don't want to misrepresent that. That's correct?
Yep. We'll be there live on the 5th.
And so the groups and you've already started doing this, the groups we've identified are administrators and supervisors, and I think Megan's already provided the list. District office, do the certified teachers at 3:30, classified when we can figure that out, and then at least a parent group, a community, some other community groups, and a student group. So Gus will do the bulk of that in one day. And so we know that you have started to provide to Megan the names of people to invite to the community groups and the parent groups. And so once we have gathered those, and we'll email that, we'll send out the invitations. And we'll work with Megan on setting up the times for those. The more we can do during the day, the better. And usually what we like to do, and Gus, when would you come into NIST? Would you come in the night before, or would you come in first thing in the morning?
It had to be the night before, so I get there Thursday. There's an hour difference. I get there Thursday night, and then I'd be there all morning, so I can do it early. Just let me know how early you'd want to go.
Okay?
I can do as early and as late on Friday.
Okay.
Right.
So here's my thinking, that we do a community group at, try a noon community group, maybe a luncheon someplace here in town. Friday night's not always good, but we can,
Is there games that night or something? Somebody else schedule?
we'd have to look at other activities. During the day, meeting with administrators, district office folks, and students would be 3 groups we'd want to make sure we get during the school, kind of work day. Maybe a breakfast meeting for community folks. We'd have a breakfast community meeting, a noon community meeting. And again, we want to make sure that we're working with the Latino community. Gus would do that, conduct that in Spanish. So the question is, how do we fit all of those into pretty much a day? We may need to do something Thursday evening, and I can certainly be here for that. We're trying to be cognizant of the cost of us traveling here. So, and I guess I'm looking to the board members about the rhythm of your community and what works in terms of timing for the community members and parents. And
Susie had a good point. Are there games or activities that Thursday and Friday? I'm looking.
Probably.
I'm just saying,
But I don't know if you're gonna be able to avoid that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And then Friday, there's no school.
oh, that Friday?
Right, we,
Okay.
we
we're
have
on
a
a
school
4-day.
Ah.
No, we have school that Friday.
Oh, we do
Yeah.
that
Yes,
Friday?
Because
Oh,
of-
that Monday's a holiday.
got it. Okay.
Okay,
I think for
good.
the community members, if you did too, like a breakfast one, because those that go to work maybe could go before work, and then an evening one for those that work or whatever. You know, maybe have two different ones for the parents and community members. And
Yeah, I think you need to have a minimum, give people a choice, either come to one or another. And again, it's the rhythm of the community. If you looked at your community and the parents, are there a lot of commuters here? Are there a lot of people who work within the community? Is the farming community large, and does it
we won't be
constitute?
farming at that time of the year.
It won't be farming, but there's a lot of sheds that
Yeah,
are
a lot
running,
of
a lot
sheds.
of people.
The onion sheds, people that pack the onions.
Say that again?
The onion sheds where people pack the onions.
Oh, yeah.
Process.
So evenings would probably be better for, I mean, especially the Latino community.
If you could do a 5 or 6 at night, maybe,
I think 6.
6 and you can have something to eat for them.
Yeah, like 5:30, start serving some type of dinner, and then 6 o'clock, let's start the meeting.
And then if there's games, they could leave at 7 or whatever.
Okay. Gus, how does that sound?
That's fine, 5:30 or 6, let me know, just, we do it there at the school possibly, right? Correct. Okay.
And if you remember the fight song, you can go to the basketball game too.
There we go.
There is no basketball going on that weekend.
There isn't?
No, wrestling, I think they have a trip planned. There's no actual wrestling meet, but I think they have a trip planned. OSU to watch Penn State.
That's right, yeah.
So we
So
may.
that's probably a good weekend.
Yeah. So in terms of the Latino community, do you think like one meeting at 5:36 would capture a fairly large group of the Latino community?
I think so,
Did someone-
especially if it gets partnered up with the PAC group, advertising to the PAC to get the word out. When ODE came, we had the middle school almost packed.
That's right.
Really? Wow.
Yes,
You ready for a big group, Gus?
it would be nice to have them.
Although if the PAC can get the word out, because I put one PAC number on here, but I don't know what the rest of you did.
Yeah, they'll get the word out. They've been very active with everything that's going on and very involved, and
And at
it's
least-
been kind of nice.
At least get those 3 that were the vote.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's critical to make sure we get those really involved groups like that. And, we've looked at teachers. Is the teacher schedule, to the elementary, is it different dismissal for elementary and different to secondary? Everybody dismisses at the same time?
Yep.
Okay. And that means classified, again, is all,
Same times.
well, it's all the same time. Well, Megan, let's you and I work on the schedule a little bit more to get that a little more defined. But I don't think you need to spend your time doing that, but we'll get the schedule worked out. And what Megan has put together in this list, what I'm hearing is we'll do the internal groups, as we've said, and maybe a breakfast meeting for community group, luncheon for community group, Latino group late afternoon, early dinner. And I think if we can provide, if our chef can provide a meal, food always brings people out, so. And then we'll work on where we can, Megan and I will figure out where we can have those meetings. That seemed like a reasonable approach for the stakeholders.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm just saying, if, because of work schedules, if there's any of the Latino group that can't do the later one, just tell them to come to one of the
Yeah,
others.
Just
Yeah.
show,
It
just show them all
doesn't
the
matter
options.
which group they're in, just
Yeah,
get them
it
there.
doesn't matter.
And during the earlier ones, if they could have a translator, or he could do it in English and Spanish.
What we like to do is to invite the people that you listed and you know of, and then open it up for anyone who'd like else could come. So, some people will, show up. You'll have retired teachers that'll say, well, I didn't get invited, but I want to go give my 2 cents worth. And so that's very important that happens. And these will be the groups also, these people will want to be involved when we bring the candidates come for interviews, because what we always recommend during the interview process that the candidates meet with almost the exact same groups that we use for our initial input. So they'll meet with students, they'll meet with teachers, they'll meet with classified employees, they'll meet with community members, administrative staff, central office staff. So they'll meet with those individual groups who will provide you then input so that you'll know what they're thinking. It's very critical that you keep in perspective, you are the people that are hiring. It's your job to do the hiring. They are not hiring, but they are giving you their thoughts. And when the candidates meet with the stakeholders, we ask them to do 2 things. What is this candidate's strengths, and what are the questions they still have after meeting with that candidate? And they'll give that to you in summary form so that you get an idea of how those candidates impressed or didn't impress the various stakeholder groups. But it gives you more input. And that's part of what the process is designed to do, is give you a lot of input so you can make a very reasoned decision. You're looking, Pat, I'm looking at you like you have a question.
No.
Okay. Okay. So any other thoughts about stakeholders and kind of that tentative schedule, and then we'll work it out? And if need be, I can come in on Thursday and maybe be here for that. I'm not advocating that, but we can always double up. Okay.
So basically for our community parents, we would offer a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and whichever one that they could attend as a meeting. And you folks are going to be there to moderate, but also you'll condense the question, not the questions, but the answers, so we have an overview.
It's a good lead-in, and I'll come right back to it, but that's exactly what we'll do. And we want to make sure that specifically the one in the evening is aimed at the Latino community, specifically.
And you don't need us to be there?
I would ask that you not be there. And the reason, when you walk in the room, they all know who the school board members are, the conversation changes. We want them to be as free as possible to express their opinion. Each one of the meetings will be essentially the same. Gus will explain the process, kind of where we are in the process, how things are going, what the purpose of the stakeholder meetings. Gus will take really good notes, and we'll pull all of those notes together into a general report. So you'll see a general report with the stakeholders said, then you'll see the notes from each one of the groups. And then you'll also see So those will be Gus's interpretation of what he heard and the notes he took. Then, starting on Friday, the 5th of January, Megan will advertise as broadly as she can through all your email blasting that a survey will go online that will ask exactly the same 4 questions. What is good about the NISA community? What is good about the NISA school district? What are the challenges that the new superintendent will face? And what are the qualities and characteristics that people want in the new superintendent? That's what we ask in the stakeholder groups. Those are the same questions we ask in the survey. We'll close that, like I said, on the 11th. Our office will pull all of that together. All Megan has to do is remind people, and we'll pull all of that together. You will see every response from this online survey. The only thing we take out are any profanity and any specific names, particularly if somebody wants to thoroughly criticize someone. So it's not appropriate to get that out publicly. That will be sent back to Megan, who will post it on the website. We want to have it very transparent. Plus, you'll have it then as soon as we have it available. And that way you have a really good sense as you're going forward what people in the community are thinking. You as a community representatives are representing the community, and it's good to know what people are thinking. So does that give you a full picture of how you're going to get your input? When I did this for Grants Pass, we had a 76-page report back to the board. I don't anticipate, and I always say that to kind of get your attention, I don't anticipate it'll be that extensive a report. Grants Pass was going through some really, really difficult times. I don't sense you've got a lot of controversy here. And so people are going to be attracted because they're interested, not because they have an axe to grind. Boy, there was a lot of axes that were being ground in that report, particularly back on the online survey. So, am I off on that there's not a lot of controversy going on? You don't have packed board meetings with, Susie, you're kind of smiling.
No,
Not
not as
not
much
as
as we
much
have.
now.
Yeah.
But there will always be that one or two. that-
Sure. Gus, do you want to add anything to that?
No, again, our goal is to make sure we compile an effective stakeholder report, and, again, I am bilingual, so if it's mixed, I can do the Spanish and English together and still take the notes appropriately, they'll get you what you need.
And I should have said there'll be an English survey and a Spanish survey. So,
I think when you advertise, if you say for the community of parents, this will be in English, this will be in English, and this one will be in Spanish.
yeah.
And, I've got an opportunity to.
Okay, so the next part of the calendar says we need to have a meeting scheduled for the week of January 22nd. Cannot be January 22nd because I'm committed to another school board that night. But at that meeting, and it has to be that week, because our office needs time to pull everything together and put the report together. But that's when, and I'm suggesting it be a Zoom meeting because it will review the stakeholder report. And at that time, we'll be able to give a synopsis of what we learned in these surveys and in these stakeholder meetings. And Gus, what's your schedule like that week of the 22nd? What would be available? And I don't, do you have anything scheduled for that week already?
So then, are we talking, what week was that again?
January 22nd.
January 22nd. Yeah. When is the board, so I can, in the evening, I have time in the evening, so I'm free free Monday, Tuesday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
And you're booked the 22nd.
I'm booked the
So
22nd.
it'd have to be Tuesday or Wednesday. 23rd or 24th.
I'm open either of those days.
As far as I know, I am too, so far.
Megan, how's the 23rd look?
I'm not showing anything, it's jumping out that's conflicting.
Okay, let's get that down for 23rd, work session at 6 o'clock, Zoom,
6 o'clock Mountain Time.
6 o'clock your time. Does that work for you, the 23rd at 5 o'clock, Gus?
Yep, I can make it work.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
and, yeah, so be a Zoom meeting, critical going over the report. Then we'll start the process at that meeting of selecting the questions for the interview. We'll start the process for that. What we'll do a little bit, the major part of the meeting to come, is to identify the qualities and characteristics you're looking for in the superintendent. Once we've honed those down and they're part of the advertisement, that will be part of the advertisement and that will be what Gus and I will use as we check references on the candidates. But it will also be the format on which we will help you develop questions around those qualities and characteristics. So if one of the things you think is important for a candidate to have strong financial background, what kind of questions would you want to ask to understand that? And we have a bank of questions from which you can choose around all of those qualities, various qualities and characteristics. So we'll want to start the process of you thinking about, okay, we want this quality and characteristic in the candidates. What kind of questions do we want? You'll be able to do a little bit of picking and choosing, and then we'll hone it down to set up an interview format. So that will be the start of really getting ready to interview at that meeting. And then and that's a good time, we're going to talk about money in a little bit, but to finalize the compensation package. But I'll come back to that. But that's what we'll do at that Zoom meeting. And it should be an executive session for two reasons. Number one, basically, we could be talking contract, what could be part of the full contract beyond salary, one. And two, we really don't want people to be able to identify what kind of questions you're going to want to ask them. So if people wanted to zoom in. But the stakeholder report will be very public, and we want it posted so people can look at it. And we want the candidates to look at it, because candidates will then also understand what you wanted to make sure people understand what is NISA, and you want them to focus in on what's NISA community, what's NISA school district like, because as they're making usually it's a family decision. We're going to move to a community. I'm like you. I think the superintendent ought to live in the community, and they need to know what they might be getting themselves in for, and particularly what a partner or spouse might be thinking too. So it's important. When I've met with students in the past, I've always said, so if you're talking to a fellow high school classmate, what would you tell them be the good things about coming to NISA? And so it starts to help candidates and Gus and I sell the community and sell the school district. But candidates are also be zeroing in on what are those issues that they might have to deal with. So and you'll see that, and it will, like we say, we like to make it very transparent.
So
Anything-
that, that meeting should have an open session where we discuss the stakeholder
Sure.
report,
Yeah,
and then go into executive session
Sure.
to discuss these items.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, all right. Okay. Gus, you have anything else to add along those lines?
No, I think you covered it. Thanks, Doug.
Okay. Then, that's be January 23rd. We close on the 12th. And at that point in time, Gus and I'll be checking all of the candidates based upon the criteria we'll have developed. And then we'd like to bring it back the week of March 4th. So Gus, would you take a look at March 4th? And would you, board members, take a look at March 4th, and Megan, to see when we might be able to schedule a meeting?
A meeting to schedule interviews or?
No, this is a meeting to go over the candidates. And this will be a fairly long meeting. Because we're going to bring the candidates to you, and we can either do it, virtually, or we can be in person. So,
And how many candidates do you think you'll whittle it down to?
well, generally what we do, and again, every pool is a little different. I'm guessing we're going to get between 15 and 20-ish candidates. 5 candidates usually are throwaways. They don't have the requisite minimum requirement. They haven't had a lead administrative position. So we're looking at probably 10 we'll look at, and then we will bring to you all, whoever applied, we'll bring that list to you. We'll explain why we didn't fully do a reference check on them, and we'll identify the ones that we think, what we call our short list. That short list, usually 6-ish, somewhere in there, based upon our work in terms of identifying who they are, digging into their references. And then that's usually about what we would bring. But clearly, you may say, well, wait a minute, what about this person? How come they didn't? You bring them forward. Always add people. For the 6 we bring, you will see an online interview that will ask them to answer 3 questions. They'll have 3 minutes to respond to a question. You'll see this ahead of time, and then we'll review it during the meeting. But we ask them to do, typically, what's your background? Why are you interested? Tell us about your decision making. What's a tough call you've had to make? So you'll have a sense of who they are before we even talk to you. And then then we usually recommend 3 people that you interview 3. So it's kind of, you winnow it down based upon the information we gather. Gus, you want to add anything to that?
No, it just really depends on how many the board wants to look at, but also when you bring them in, it's time commitment as well. If you have a lot of people, it just makes it more difficult. But I think we can whittle it down to the appropriate number for you based on that timeline that we get, and we'll make sure that, again, it has to be the right fit for you. It has to be the right fit for the candidate as well, as Doug mentioned earlier about understanding the community.
And if we don't care for any of those 3, if we think they're not a right fit, we can go.
Our commitment to you, and it's in your contract, we're with you till you get your person. That's our guarantee. And if you see, if none of the 3 fit, okay, well, back to the drawing board.
Do we have school that last Friday, or that Friday in March?
The last Friday?
Or what is it, that first week of March?
Oh,
Is there school that Friday?
He's talking about having a meeting March 4th.
The week
Oh,
of.
the week.
Okay.
So if it's gonna be a long meeting or a longer meeting, can we go for Thursday, guys? Cause it's not a bedtime night.
Will you be planting by then or whatever?
You tell me the weather, I'll be here.
I'm retired.
Okay, what's Thursday, the 4th of March, 7th of March look like for you, Gus?
What's the time again? Is it 5:30 again?
Whenever.
I've got to look at one thing here. I'm pretty sure that's,
I am 3 days ahead. You guys are asking me.
As long as you don't do anything in February, I'm good.
We just let you know the week ahead, was it?
I liked the reminder, Megan, thank you.
Yes.
so March 7th, what time?
We're open.
And I would say you need to think about 3 hours.
So 5 to 8, 5 to 9.
Gus, what's the earliest you can meet?
I can do 5 o'clock.
Your time or our time?
His time,
So that would be 6 our time.
6 o'clock, got it.
okay.
Or I could even do a half hour earlier. I can work my schedule around a little bit.
Okay, so March
5:30?
7th at 5:30.
5:30.
That'll change the next item, which is the interviews, because I don't think we can meet on Thursday, the 13th.
We have a board meeting on the 11th.
Yeah. We need to give candidates a chance to arrange their schedule, so we're going to have to probably look at meeting the week of March 18th for your interviews. And what we typically recommend, so, and again, this is kind of up to you how you want to do it. We can do it one of 2 ways. We like to bring in 1 candidate a day. This is one, I should say we like to. Option 1 candidate a day. They meet with basically all the stakeholders that we are using for our inputs. And then we usually like to finish the day with and you can either finish the day with a dinner and with the board and then the interview. Or you can do the interview and then have the dinner afterwards. But I think it's always important to have kind of break bread so you can see the candidate in a little bit more of a relaxed environment. And if they bring, and if a partner or spouse comes with them, to also include them in the dinner. That's one option. And and that takes a full day for that candidate to see the district, tour the district, to see the community, to meet with all the groups, and then meet with you. It's a full day, and I call it running the gauntlet, but it's, I think, important because superintendents work long days. And you'll see them at the end of the day, and they still have energy level, because if that's just part of being a superintendent. So that's option 1 candidate a day for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday maybe, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending, because then we'll talk about after that. There's another option, I call it the ballet, where you can bring the candidates in, all 3 candidates in, and through judicious scheduling, they meet with all the groups and they meet with you separately during the day. It requires the board, all board members, be available all day. The days of the interviews, and the most important thing is for every board member to be at every interview. So that's going to be critical in terms of how you schedule. We don't need to schedule that now, but we do need to, on that meeting March 7th, determine if you're going to want to, or we need to talk about it in January. Do you want to meet it all in one day? Do you want to meet one a day? And it really depends on your schedules and what you can work out. I know that some of you our schedules are more flexible, but some board members may be locked in. So
And you're talking about the week of the 18th?
yeah.
I don't know that I could.
You have to work, Dustin works, Don works, you'll be in the middle of
Middle of,
planting, so.
oh,
But, I mean, if you gotta make it work, make it work, so.
well,
What about Dustin, Donnie, and Megan, and you, people that work? You can't miss 3 days of work.
well, if we did the evenings, that you could
Right.
usually, what time do you usually knock off during When the moon comes up?
Usually we quit around April, end of April.
I'm so glad Noble's retired.
Maribel, what time would work for you in the evenings?
Typically, I'm out of the office at 5 and home by,
She has kids at home.
If we do it in the evenings, I can make it work.
yeah, I can make evenings
All right.
work as well.
Maybe we should have a high school student babysit for, help you out.
Um,
I have some at home.
Gus and I would not be here unless you want us, but that is an extra charge. It's not part of our usual fee. So Megan would be very
So you
capable
won't be there for the interviews?
unless you want us there.
Okay.
That's just kind of the way we work it. 'Cause by that time, I have a lot of confidence it'll all be handled well here.
So we're talking about doing 3 different days?
Yeah.
3 different evenings?
And you may want to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and have an executive session Thursday to make your decision on who your finalist is. And the reason I say that, one of the other things we recommend is to then take 1 or 2 board members to visit your top candidate's home district.
Any of them applying from Hawaii or anything?
Well,
We don't know yet.
I'll go. Want to go with me, Crystal?
but you're going to need to decide that. And the problem is, I'm assuming your spring, I think I looked on your calendar, your spring break starts that next week. So that gets a little dicey in terms of travel, getting that person. So, I think if it's a person from, I think most districts in Oregon are out that last week. So try to figure that out. But that's why I think it's important for you to make a decision as quickly as possible who your finalist is, so you can then finalize with a visit and then making the offer.
Yeah, I think that where we would go to the top candidates' hometown and, get a feel. I think that's really important.
Talk to board members there, other administrators, community folks. Yeah, very important. And we can help set that up.
Yeah,
And then make your decision and schedule the decision-making right after that. All right, well, we'll finalize that, so we'll shoot for 17, or 18, 19. Okay, busy week that week. Gus, anything, do you need to get going pretty quick here?
Yeah, I actually have a meeting downstairs here in about, actually, I moved my meeting in a half hour, so I'm good for another, 15 minutes or so.
Okay, all right. So, scheduling week 18, 19, 20, maybe decision on the 21st, at least to hone it down. And we'll go for evenings, then for the board, for the dinner. You may want to do the dinner first and then the interview, and that gives Jeremy a chance to at least take a shower before he shows up for the interview. I didn't, anyway, okay. So that's pretty much the calendar. Megan and I will hone it up a little bit to make sure it looks is in final shape, okay, and go from there. Okay. All right, so what do we got? What's next? Okay, let's talk dollars and cents. What do you want to pay? I think one of the things Gus and I talked about, to attract a really good candidate, you want to make sure your salary's competitive. And did I get you Randy's comparison, salary comparison, Gus?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Okay, so right now, it's a little, Mrs. Salary is very low compared to the other candidates in this, or the other superintendents in this size school district. And if you look to kind of understand this chart, you'll see comparing District 79. It's kind of like 2/3 of the way down in black. And it says District 79, NISA at school district. And if you go up to the list of school districts, District 79, NISA would be right between Winston-Dillard and Siuslaw. So that's where it fits. So you can see the 5 districts above NISA and the 5 districts below NISA. So Siuslaw through Cresswell are smaller, and Winston-Dillard through South Umpqua are larger. Because the salaries are based on this year's salaries, and NISA has an interim, the salary is lower. It just is. Pat and I talked a little bit about this. The average of school districts this size is right at 150, just a little bit under 155. For advertising to start next year, I would recommend an inflation of like 4%, and I'd recommend a salary range somewhere between, I just put the range at 160 to 170. Gus, how does that strike you?
No, that's, the inflationary is about right in terms of the percentage. That's what's going on right now in terms of the 4%. So I think that'll put us in a good range to be able to attract good people. But again, it's up to the board to decide what your comfort level is as well.
Crystal, what does that sound like to you?
I mean, I have not built the fiscal year 25 budget yet, so I'm really
Is
looking
that
to the
something
board
that you
to.
think might be doable, or?
What about the cost of living in these places compared to ours, though?
Well, South Umpqua is Douglas County. I guess probably cost of living is either comparable or lower. Umatilla, that's probably comparable or lower. Brookings Harbor, comparable or lower. Winston-Dillard, again, Douglas County. We did that search. I should have grabbed what we paid there, but it's comparable or lower. I think all of these are not in what I would call high cost of living areas. They're more, they're not high cost of living areas.
And do these school districts have an assistant superintendent?
Probably some do, some don't.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
Because we're looking at not having an assistant.
I don't know the workings. I know Winston-Dillard does not. I can't tell you beyond any of those because I'm just not familiar with their structure.
Because we've had an assistant superintendent, and this year we now have a title programs
Federal
manager.
title.
I don't know the title.
Elementary.
Director.
Some kind of a director. The one
So-
thing,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
this salary also depends on experience.
And usually the way it's advertised is a range, and then it says DOE, depending on experience. And if you have a person who's their first superintendency, you would probably go to the lower range. Or if it's an experienced superintendent, you go to the upper range. What you don't want to do is price it so low that people will say, well, so as an example, a good candidate would be a high school principal, for example, and some high school principals are already in that range, or a director of a program in a little larger district, they're already in that range. So you want to make sure you don't price it too low, but you also don't want to be too extravagant. I mean, that's kind of being the fiscal stewards that you're required to be. That's why I'm saying 150 to 160, or 160 to 170 kind of fits within what would be comparable and people would look at it.
That's with benefits and everything.
No, that's just salary.
Just salary.
On top of that would be the typical benefits package, and I would assume that, I think the district pays PERS, correct? So it would include PERS, it would include the typical healthcare benefits, benefits that are available to all other employees. And then you will, and then this is just something to think about. Every district's a little different. Pat and I talked a little bit about this. You want to, typically a superintendent will get a travel allowance. Sometimes they're required to get reimbursed when they go to meetings. Well, I always kind of think a superintendent's time is more valuable than filling out a reimbursement form for mileage to go to the ESD superintendent meeting, or to go to a regional meeting, or go to the meeting in superintendent meeting in on the Oregon coast. So sometimes you can do it one of a couple ways. You just say, this is your general travel allowance, and then you have X amount and then conferences are on, all conference costs are on top of that, or you just give a general amount, including conference costs and general travel. Something to talk about, think about. Everyone's a little different. And most superintendents now get a tech stipend to pay for a cell phone. Can't be in this world anymore without a cell phone to be provided. I don't know what you do now. Nothing? Okay.
No, the interim.
Not for our interim.
But we had those similar things with our previous superintendent.
Yeah, so you're not disfamiliar. And, you know, whether you want to provide a TSA, the 401k, 403B type thing for superintendent, an experienced superintendent may come in and want to negotiate that. And then other compensation, it just kind of can be, it varies from district to district. Working with another district where their current superintendent is a special ed director, and that's part of her it's an additional under her compensation. So it'll vary from district to district.
So a lot of this can be negotiated.
Yeah.
In contract.
Yeah, negotiated. I think you want to be clear though what your parameters are. And then we can do that later, but I just want you to get starting to think about it. Salaries, the one thing we want to get out there now, because that'll go in the brochure.
And budget-wise, it would be good to have sort of some figures.
And you think the 160, 170 would work?
I mean, as long as our enrollment does not drop.
Salary, so.
Yeah.
I think we have to be competitive as a school district, or we're not going to keep or find anyone. I think that needs to be.
And to go along with what Jeremy said, it would be nice to have someone get buy-in and want to be here and live here, live, eat, and breathe Nissa, you know?
Yeah.
What was our previous total, like after PERS and everything, do you know roughly off the top of your head?
Over 200,000.
Yeah, it was I think it was around 200 after all the,
I think a little bit more than that.
after all the benefits.
Yeah, after all the benefits.
So would you
I think it,
see if we were at like 165, what it would be after you added PERS and something similar to our last contract? Is that
do you want that right now? Or, yeah, I can do that.
In your spare time.
in your,
I
in
think
all your spare time?
we also need to remember if we hire someone that is a tier 1, 2 PERS, they're more expensive than a tier 3.
Are there very many tier 1s left?
I was going to say, dude.
I was.
Our last person was, things like that. But we also need to be mindful of, we're going into negotiations with both unions, and so this is really something you guys need to set, so we know how much money we have to work with for the other unions.
Do we know how these compare to our, to Malheur County, to other superintendents? I didn't see them.
In this area,
Yeah.
I can find out.
It would be nice to be competitive still to what's around us.
I would guess it would be higher. The surrounding districts would have a lower level of compensation because they're smaller. That's generally true, but can't be specific. I can certainly check with the ESD soup and to see what, if they have the data for the superintendents in the area here.
Jeremy, I can run figures though and get those to you guys, what it would look like from 160 to 170 plus, kind of compare it to the last.
Just a rough, yeah.
With the benefits and what that would cost the district.
And kind of maybe what
Thank
not your county, like Ontario, Vail, have,
Or-
what theirs are.
Or if you know, if you have good contact with the local districts, if you could just call the different districts. and get- Yeah, that would be
I
good.
know some people.
Sometimes that's quicker.
Yeah,
Mark Redmond could probably get you.
Thank you.
yeah, I can do that.
So the question is, do we want to, is 160, 170 reasonable to at least advertise at this point in time, knowing that the final number will be different?
When do we have to know that?
Well, we want to get advertising by January 8th.
So we just have to come up with a rough, I mean, where we
Somewhere
basically
between
want to be by then.
Yeah, because Crystal will have time
Right.
to get that to us. and then
But that's what I'm saying, we don't have to decide if we're gonna be 160, 170 tonight.
No, but we do need a range to
Yes.
advertise, and we'll have that brochure ready to go sooner than later.
We'll be back to
Yes,
discuss.
Would it behoove us to maybe expand the range, or is that not a good idea? If we went 140, 170, then we're covered for right now, for the brochure.
Somewhere in the hundreds.
I don't know.
I would, again,
That's-
if you make it too low, because people are gonna look at it and go, the broader, when you go, if you said 140 to 170, if I were a candidate, I'd go, what's going on here? You don't wanna come across as, well, maybe they're cheap, and they'll.
I don't think that's cheap for us at all. So that's how I look at it. I don't know, it's just a thought maybe, or if we don't like 140,
We have a
150.
day or two to do some comparisons and.
Sure,
Before the-
we just need to get her dead.
Yeah, 160 to 170 is good.
Well, Darren was one,
67.
I thought it was 140.
What's the question?
Nothing, I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay,
That's like
if they said 160 to 170,
No, but
they could go above that, right?
Yeah.
It's just a range.
that wasn't his base.
I don't know. It's like- Let me text Kristen.
And you said you're putting depending on its experience?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Gus, you have any other thoughts on salary?
I mean, I think just getting the regionals from Ontario, Vale, the whole region there, and then, just everybody on the east side. And then, with inflationary, I think you're right about inflation, Doug, it's gonna be anywhere, up on the west side, it's like 6%, so back home, probably closer to 4, I'm assuming, 4 to 5.
Yeah, see. That's what
Yeah, I think the point being 160 to 170, you can, if you think you need to, want to exceed that, 160 would be kind of the floor. And then you can work from there. When you say 160 to 170, you also indicate you're willing to negotiate if you've got somebody to talk to.
And if our neighboring school districts that have more students are lower than that, I'm just,
How
A
much?
lot of it depends on the perks too. I mean,
Yeah,
the travel allowances, the phone tag, the vacation
Retirement.
days, the cashing out vacation days, all of that, so, yeah.
Well, and also available housing, you know. That's something that you're going to have to consider.
is NISA a high cost of living area? It's how,
No higher than anywhere else, I don't think. But there's not a lot of available housing.
okay, so Pat, you'll get back to me on that number, okay? All right. So
ASAP.
pardon, ASAP, yeah. Okay. All right, so, you want take us. Okay, last two things. In your packet that Megan gave you was this list, it's pre-conversation with individual board members. And what we've scheduled previously is, once we were selected, we would talk to each of you individually before this meeting. Well, because things are happening pretty quickly, what I want to do, and I'll send an email to all the board members, is to set up a phone conversation around these questions. And it's basically to get to know you, get to know about you and your work on the board, your view of the board, and to get an idea of how you think the search is going to go. So on an individual basis. And it helps me, and it'll help Gus at doing being the consultants to do our work. And I want to do it probably next week. So, and it's about a half an hour conversation, and it's pretty low key. So I'll send an email and to all board members, and we'll get something set up. So, okay. All right. Last thing, qualities and characteristics of a board, of the new superintendent. I'm going to give you a piece of paper here.
I'm going to need to step away, so I want to thank you all and wish you a good night. I'll see you here very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Gus.
Gus.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great holiday.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay. Identifying the qualities and characteristics, we can do a whole variety of things, but I like to talk about it. But I also like to give you an idea of what other districts have done, because I think it helps stimulate what you want in a superintendent. And these are mostly from the state of Oregon. We've got a couple Washington ones, and one from Vermont, because I kind of liked it. But these are what our firms put together. So what I want you to do is just to read through it, give you a few minutes to read through it. And when you see something that you think, hey, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, circle it. Now, and then I'm going to ask you to do two other things. Number one, what's the minimum you require in a superintendent? So, for example, they have to have a license. That's a minimum requirement. I'm going to ask, are you going to require that they've had a lead administrative position? Could a vice principal from a high school qualify? My view is no. But I think we have to be real clear. They have to have a lead administrative experience. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Old school Doug would say 3 years of minimum lead administrative position. And I say that, and that could be a high school principal, it could be a superintendent, it could be someone who's been a principal and is an assistant superintendent, but somewhere they've been the leader of that, either their division or their school or their school district. So, do you want that or not? I throw that out. And then are there some preferred things, such as, do you prefer they have worked in a rural district? Do you prefer? So some other things that you might prefer, separate from their qualities and characteristics of them as an individual. So does that make sense in terms of there's a little bit of a difference there. So read through the list and circle any of these that you say, yeah, that's what I want. Okay, I'll give you 5, and then we'll start doing a little work on it.
Don't start going out.
I drove past Adrian twice today, out that far. Morning and end of the day for an inspection. It still failed.
I'm sorry.
That's a long drive.
Yes.
You know, that street's oh, it's supposed to be a short list. Got it.
But like communication was in every single one.
Might have circled the whole entire first page.
Yeah.
Just it, it's like,
If you haven't got to the back page yet, there's some good.
I'm like,
yeah, I know, I thought I was about done, and then I got to the back, I'm like,
Circle, circle.
ooh, future ready, I like that. Future ready.
You can't even think about today, let alone tomorrow.
But that's the kind of leader we need. Future
I
ready.
got that underlined.
Oh, you too? I circled it.
This is my favorite form. It's called Beg, Borrow, and Steal. Do what other people.
I don't see one that says goes down to kindergarten and reads stories to them.
Well, you get to come up with your own.
You a kindergarten teacher?
I taught fifth grade.
My
And
wife's,
third grade.
my wife's a retired kindergarten teacher.
I subbed in there once, and I was reading a story to these kids, and I looked up and I said, okay, 8 of you have fingers up your nose, everybody take your finger out of your nose. Continue with the story.
We have a good friend who taught, just retired, but taught 4th and 5th, and she was supposed to, she had to fill in for 1st grade. And she said, I'll never go back, they like to touch you.
Oh, I don't mind the touching, but
And she didn't know how to, she didn't know that she needed to, she said, hey, you with a red shirt. With a red shirt. So
but
she-
I tied shoes 500 times that day. Teach, tie my shoe.
My daughter said there's a shoe tying club.
Oh,
She's like, I'm not in it yet.
and they learn how to tie it. I know there's that last tooth, but when they lose their first tooth or whatever.
I purposely buy her shoes with no laces because
I was thinking they have to do an advertising of Skechers that you don't can just slip in. Try those.
at Journey's Kids, they have the laces that are stretchy, like elastic, but they look like real laces. So you just like tie them in a knot and cut the excess off.
This viewer's Journey's for kids. She's 27. That's where I buy all the shoes.
Willing to make long-term commitment to the district and community.
I see what they're doing.
Okay. Everybody had a chance to go through it once. Okay, Pat and Susie, would you compare your lists? And then Jeremy and Maribel, would you?
And the first one, I mean, a lot of ones that were in the first were repeated in the second, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
just circled them in the first.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So I can do first three,
Yeah.
but I realize that these can be condensed. But there are bad ideas.
That's what I actually started on the second page, went back to the first, so
I did like this one though, I don't know that I saw that one. As the track record of valuing every employee, no matter their role or role within the district and has demonstrated. And has
No, it needs to be somebody who recognizes, and that's not, nice to feel like a person. I mean, I don't want to be
I think it's waiting for kind of a month on there. There's something.
I didn't read this.
Ones like that,
It's one of the shortest ones, but it's the most. I just need something
And I,
it's like the integrity of honesty.
sound fiscal student.
So I tried to just circle the ones that were different. Collaborative and skill building, people with different opinions, because we do have very diverse.
And that's the thing. Show explain everything. But the last one was, no one understands. Yeah, I really like that. Strong inspirational leader who is organized, family, and considerate of our partners. Keeps all board members cares and everything about them.
I mean, somebody's getting dressed and getting moved their family into their house, but you can't tell when you ask them. Legally, I don't think. I mean, maybe it'll be a single person.
I've seen that put into some policies.
Firm and fair. That's what, they all say the same thing.
I mean, these, I just felt like I've already sort of something
Just
just thought of them, really thought of them.
They are.
So I, with the communication, I circled it on the first one, but I didn't circle it every other time.
And if you notice, communication is a big thing through this whole thing.
Something about being able to,
I think there was one in every thing that said
I
something.
can see why you put the Vermont one in there.
Why what?
Why you left the Vermont one in there. Because it's one of the shortest ones, but it has everything that all the other ones did consolidated.
We have 40 pages of these. So I read through them all, and I went, okay, let's do the ones local, but what are the other ones I like?
Yeah,
I like that one.
I did like that one.
Well, let's just, without reading these through, which ones did you kind of agree between the two of you? Which ones did you agree, yeah, well, those are the things those are the qualities and characteristics we really like. So it just, be critical about it. So Susan, what was one that you would have?
Integrity and honesty.
Okay?
I'm just gonna read the first, like, in the first one, I think we did most,
Okay.
puts kids first.
This is the Glide one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then it's really important to have good communication, and that was in all of them.
Okay. And oral and writing?
Both, and,
I would even say and nonverbal.
yeah, and tech, I mean, being able to email us once a week and tell us what's going on.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Non-verbal.
I would say even nonverbal.
Oh,
Non-verbal communication.
And with that, I would even say, hey, maybe you don't speak the same language, but if a person that speaks one language and the other person speaks another language, then being able to see that nonverbal, in a sense, because they don't speak each other's language, but know there's that sincerity within how they're
tease that out a little bit. What would be the quality of characteristics if you had somebody who's monolingual speaking to somebody who is monolingual of a different language? What would be that?
Just the facial expressions even, you can tell if someone's.
Sincerity.
And respect.
Sincerity and respect for,
Anybody you're communicating with.
Whether they're a kindergartner or a 90-year-old.
I'm gonna put K to 90s, and I'll figure that one out.
And my grandma's 95, she might get mad at you.
Okay. But in 70% Latino, is that, am I right? About. So you have a large Latino community here, so let's come back over to here. Required or preferred the person be bilingual, no Spanish, or is it not something you want to even consider?
I mean, it would be nice, but not
Not
just,
required.
not required, but
preferred.
not just the speaking, but just the understanding of the culture, because that's a big part. Or you could be not speaking with Spanish, but understand the culture a little bit, I think.
I don't speak Spanish.
But you understand
Somewhat.
their culture.
Yes, but
And
I've lived in
your
it my whole life.
You know what a quinceañera is, you know what
Sure,
different.
I've been to them, yeah.
I mean, you know,
And being approachable, I think, goes big, where, Jeremy, you might agree, you may not speak the full language, but you're approachable by that community.
so, I mean, if they speak Spanish, that's a bonus, but if they don't, as long as they're
Let's be honest, we've had people who speak
Spanish.
Spanish, but
I'm not approachable.
yes, and they never used it. They never-
Yeah, that's what I just said, if you understand and accept the culture.
So maybe preferred with person who speaks Spanish, but one of the characteristics is this, the quality to appreciate and to understand the Latino culture. And do we want to be that specific?
No, any culture.
Okay, all right.
All cultures.
I'll play with that. Because I'll write this in a little bit better language. Okay, these are all really good ones. Couple that you had, Jeremy and
One that kept coming up on ours was able to solve, a creative problem solver who is firm and fair.
And able to make difficult decisions. Yes. That follows through.
what was that, Maribel?
Able to make difficult decisions.
Any others?
Has a proven track record of success in leadership.
If you think about the first one,
On what?
on the one that she said was the first one. You had
I got it circled.
Let's start.
Let's talk about this one as required or preferred. Do you want someone who's had a lead administrative experience? I see that shaking. You want a minimum number of years, 3 years?
I'd say at least, at the very least 2, but that's me. I like the 3.
I like the one.
One.
I'd like at least two.
We got 1, 2, 3 Crystal, you had your hand up, did you want to contribute?
Three.
So here's one of the things, if they've been a lead administrator for 1 year, are they hopping?
Right.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
And you want, I think stability is something that I
That's
heard you say
important.
earlier.
So I was thinking they started as a teacher, did that for 5-10 years,
They
Then
have to
jump-
teach for 3 years before they can.
and then jumped into, I don't know, vice principal, then jumped to be principal, lead principal. So then I'm like, okay, so do we want to see that they stayed in the same district sometime?
Well, and
Language is
we'll
a
see their
jumpy.
record, correct?
You'll see their record, yeah. We'll,
So 3 years would be good.
everybody okay?
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, and something you said earlier, and I'm gonna throw it out here, is, it's the stability, and I'm not quite sure how to, as we talked about expectations.
Connections to the community.
Well, that would be, we'll put that's something a little bit different than what I was thinking.
Are you referring to like an invested,
Yeah, yeah,
somebody who is invested in building and sticking with the community?
yeah, there we go.
What do you think about someone who doesn't just go to sporting events, but like supports homeless, supports like, I don't know how to word that.
I think I saw that in here.
You
Yeah,
just say
it is.
somebody who is involved in all aspects of the district.
That can be seen a couple ways.
Sporting, education,
Music.
clubs.
I'm gonna put visible, involved in all aspects.
Yes, visibly supported.
Other ones that popped up.
I circled the one, I think Pat did too, is collaborating and skillful at bringing people together with different opinions, to build common ground.
Collaborative and what?
Skillful at bringing people with different opinions together. Skillful.
Consensus.
Patty,
Oh, I was just rephrasing that.
okay.
A sound fiscal steward.
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, that one's, I got that one underlined.
Okay. Number one reason superintendents get fired is because they aren't good finance. or
But we have
used to be.
Crystal, so.
Pardon?
We have Crystal, so.
Even Crystal can only do so much without support. Future ready. Proactive goes into that one. I guess it's the same thing, but you can't say it too many times.
I like organization, somebody who knows when the meetings are and knows what needs to be done and gets it done. To me, that's important.
Personally organized?
Yes.
Okay.
District organizer.
That's why we have you.
You could say he's a good manager.
Manager, his or her time.
Time management.
I'd like to say someone that regularly assesses the needs or
there's always something.
And, yeah, looking to fill a need.
Continually moving forward.
Checking, that's all I was thinking about, checking, make sure that things are done when
They need to do this in a, they still need to be personable. You know, they need to,
Yes.
you know, you gotta joke around and try, you gotta smile.
Pat, you were getting at something I thought it's, when they say they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. That's
That was what I was-
integrity.
yeah.
But it's, they get the job done when they're supposed to get
Well,
it.
and then they communicate back to you, if you say, this needs to be done, or this needs to be taken care of, they take care of it, and then they get back to you and say, I took care of it, I follow up,
And follow through.
and follow up.
Follow through and follow up.
What characteristics outside of, work, can you say something like strong family values?
We can say it.
What if they're single?
I think, isn't that though,
I mean,
what if they don't
just-
have a family?
That's what I
Is it-
just said, what if they're single?
Is it a protected class where you're,
Well,
Can you say appreciates family values or something?
Well, you can have somebody who has kids that have grown and gone, but still have raised their family with values and,
what if people don't have children? Are you saying their mom and their dad and brothers and sisters?
I agree with you, but I don't.
how about realizes the importance of strong families?
Yeah, see, something like that, appreciate, that's why I said appreciates families.
appreciates and understands family values.
What about you two up there? You gotta have some, you gotta work with them too.
We have some good ones. We would like a leader with a keen sense of state laws and regulations.
Can you hear her?
I got
I
that one
didn't hear that,
circled.
sorry.
Just
too.
keen, sense of state laws and regulations. I think on Addison Central, the fourth bullet is dedicating to improving student outcomes for all with a strong knowledge of special education, understanding of rural communities and socioeconomic diversity disparity. Since our county is very
Rural.
But they know laws, rules, and regs, okay? Okay, so, any more that you want to add up there, so you get to vote? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Understands school finance, federal programs, understands
What?
fiscal management,
Hey, I got that
some
one up there
budgeting
already.
skills. I just wanna highlight it
You
again.
just wanna reiterate it?
She wants to highlight it.
I wanna highlight it.
Here's a yellow, oh, no, there's no.
What do we call it, federal?
Federal programs.
Okay, so, I'm gonna force you to decide. You all have these 2 by Post-its. You got 5 votes, but you got 5.
The quality and characteristics.
Yeah, and think about that while I'm asking you one other question. We didn't say anything about background in a rural, small community.
I would say preferred,
Is that a
but not
preferred?
required.
Right, but you want that in there. Okay. Now, could they be,
You guys have one more?
let's throw out this, somebody taught
Bravo.
in NISA, left and went to Beaverton to be an administrator.
But they're familiar with and understand the rural community. You can even say preferred experience with rural. There you go.
Would you call, I call this a farming community, is that fair? Is that the best characterization? Because you can be rural but not farming, and farming's a different culture. Exactly, so it could be a timber community, and I don't think a timber community is the same as agriculture. Okay, these we don't worry about. 5 over there. And again, I'll expand and pull things together based upon how you come up with these. Well, let me read them again. So, and some of these we might even be able to combine. Somebody who has integrity and honesty, someone who puts kids first, a good communicator, someone who's approachable, someone who understands. Let's think here. Some of these we might even put together. Someone who understands and appreciates the Latino community, someone who understands state laws, state regs and laws, great problem solver, somebody who's firm and fair, able to make difficult decisions, prove a track record of successful leadership, somebody who's invested in and connects to the community. We can make that one.
Can you make those top 3 one?
Yep.
I think so too.
Somebody who's visible in this, and this is in the schools. Collaborative, somebody who's collaborative and brings people together.
Can we put that together with communication?
Yep.
See, we're gonna have you whittle these all down to 5.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm going to draw that one over here. Okay. We have sound fiscal management, and I would think we put under, this is also part of it. We don't do that. Future ready and visionary, proactive. I don't think anything else is there. Personally organized. It has that continual improvement and constant assessment, looking forward. That could also be part of
Future ready.
being future ready.
would that go along with putting kids first in a sense? Because you need to be future ready and think about the kids.
Good. Sure.
I'm gonna say something that you guys probably mad at me for saying. Well, I think it is very important that this person puts the kids first. He's more of a business manager.
Because I think John came from a business background. I don't think he came.
That's what I'm saying.
So
He was a businessman. It doesn't mean he didn't care about kids.
But business.
I'm just saying,
business,
he put the district and what was best for the district, which ultimately is what's best for the kids. But in a business, everybody,
He came from construction.
yeah, he was a businessman. Everybody under that can take care of the kids.
Yeah, the teachers take care of the kids, he took care of the rest of the
The
teachers.
principals, the vice principals, they can take care of the kids. This man or woman is taking care of the district's needs. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, because the district's needs take care of the kids.
That should be an automatic. If he's doing his job, the kids will be taken care of. Yes.
we don't need a list.
That'll be done.
Okay, so get your 5, I'm already there.
I think we just got to work down the
I
five.
think so.
Okay, so what we have here,
I think integrity and honesty can go with the state laws as well.
well, what I was going
Well-
to do was integrity and honesty is follow through, gets back, and is personally organized. I think those are all kind of conceptually about the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because to me, integrity says, I'm going to do this, and I did it, and I got back to you.
I'll just write it in a spiral notebook and then get it back.
I'll check on that.
We all have it.
Okay, now you still got to do 5.
I don't think it was fine.
Are there more than
Huh?
5
How
left?
many?
Well, let's see
Can
what
we
we have.
ban those
We
from
have
the district?
integrity and honesty. We put kids first with what? Oh,
Everything.
okay.
That's an automatic.
Okay, we have a good communicator, and that goes with
Follow through.
approachable and collaborative. Understands and appreciates the Latino or all cultures, that stands alone. Understands state law and sound fiscal steward, that goes with federal programs.
The Latino culture one, that can go under good communication, because that's,
Classified.
I mean, you should have,
And approachable.
yes, unapproachable, you should have, that
Do we we need to get on that.
Everybody.
I think there's almost two aspects there.
She always gives me the couch.
I think there's the ability to communicate one-on-one
Before we leave tonight.
and broadly, but then I think there's a second part, almost, it's that being, that
Tell me what my
cultural
budget is.
awareness. that
You could put them together, but if you keep them separated, it emphasizes each one of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's,
But you could bundle that into
Jeremy's
something.
just gonna narrow it down to 5.
I think this
You
one
crack
is,
me.
I think this one is so critical that you don't want to make it too broad, but I think you have to almost have, I agree with you, being approachable to, an understanding culture is part of communication, but I think there's a skill in communication in terms of being able to write appropriately, being able to address superintendent's addressing a large crowd. So it's really that oral, just that skill of being orally able to express themselves orally and in writing. But then this is the nuanced part of being a communicator, how to approach and appreciate other cultures. Be approachable. And I see it as two different things. And I think I can tease that out a little bit, if that's okay. Okay. But I like, this is what we were getting at, wasn't it? Okay. So maybe we only have 5. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's over here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10 between the two.
9. I think got 9, 10 in here. So you want to vote or just want to go with 10?
Go with those 10.
Okay, all right. What I will do now is I'll put this into some kind of understandable form, and I will get it back to Pat. And we'll try to put it in what would then go into our brochure and be what on which we'd advertise. I always kind of take that step forward, so when I say, okay, Don Broading's applied to be the superintendent of NISA, and Gus Calderas has applied, I'll say to Don, okay, we'll have a question, we'll say, talk to us about him being, kind of, what in terms of integrity and honesty, does he get back to you when he says he'll get back to you? What's his attitude towards kids? What are his communication skills? Is he approachable? Does he understand different cultures? How is he when it comes to finance and state law and federal law? How does he solve problems? I don't know if this will become more a preferred, I think this almost becomes a preferred. I don't, we'll see that, so I'm going to move that over here.
Use different colored markers.
That's what
Yeah, I
was
should have done that,
thinking.
sorry about that. I can find it, and we can always check on connections to the community, and if they're vested and involved in the community, are they visible in the schools? Okay, yeah, check
Which
that.
obviously-
Sporting events, right?
Pardon?
And events, school events.
That
School-
can all, that can
and
all,
school events.
that can be grouped into the one above it too, though.
Yeah.
Which ones?
So the visible involved, that's in connections to community.
Well, this is community, this is in the schools. You can have somebody who's out in the
Oh, I
community
gotcha.
and not in the schools. You can have somebody in the schools, but doesn't show up at the chamber meeting or the Rotary meeting or any of that stuff. Okay, I'll pull that together. That'll be good.
Good luck.
Now, one of the things, just so you know, and Gus and I will do it a little differently, but when I look at somebody's application, I'll look at, we'll just say, you take somebody who's been a superintendent. And so, whether or not they list that person, the first person I'm gonna call their sitting superintendent, I'm gonna call their sitting board chair. And I'm gonna call, whether or not they list them, I'm going to call the president of the teachers union. I'm gonna call the president of the classified union.
What about the secretaries? secretary's.
The district office.
District office.
Yeah, they know
You know,
everything.
yeah, you know, you're right. I will
These two right here would be able to tell you everything that you need to know.
And if I have a question about an employee, I always go to a secretary and say, what do you think?
When we did Hillsborough, I did the vetting for the strong internal candidate. I had 15 different references, and all of those people that you're talking about, yeah. I talked to it's bigger districts, so a lot more people to talk to, but that's pretty typical. When we did, I'm trying to think, when I did Grants Pass, we had internal, you know, when you do different districts, and who the candidates are, try to get as much information as you can, so, yeah. And you're right, central office staff is critical. Sometimes you have to be a little cautious with central office staff, simply because, and even though we say it in our application, that we will check with other people who could comment on your performance. So they know if they've applied, they know we're going to be checking. And if we blow their cover, so be it. So, some people don't want to know that they're applying. We always ask if we can contact their previous employer, and if they say no, I will call them and ask why. And I'll say, look, if we can't talk to your current employer or a previous employer, I need to know why. And if you're telling us no, you can't, then I know that there's an issue there. And usually they end up saying yes. So usually it's not. But like I say, try to get as deep as I can to let so it gives you the best information possible. And it just, like I say, it all depends on where the person's been and their background and what I can find out. But if a person's been in a lot of districts, that sometimes also is telling. Well, we got through everything. In just a little over 2 hours, so I appreciate that. So let's just kind of review what's coming. We'll review the calendar. I'll redo the calendar and get that to Megan so we can compare notes. And we'll finalize on the schedule for the stakeholder groups. We've finalized on the advertising venues. Pat will come back and let me know about what you want to do with the salary range. And I will then take what we've got up here on the board, and I will put that into a little bit more of a usable form and to match what you, so then I will get that back to Pat so that you can determine, yeah, that's what we want to advertise. That makes sense? Did I miss anything, Megan? Is that what you've got?
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything.
Okay. Gus will be here on the 5th of January. See if you could get him to sing the fight song.
We won't be here, we weren't invited.
Oh,
That's right.
true, that's true. Well, you you wander through. That'd be great. Thank you very much. It's always great working with you. And I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, do you have any other questions for me? I always want to make sure, I'm sorry, I'm packing up before we're done. Do we have any other things you want to know about going through the process?
No, and you'll call us, interview us next week.
I will send you an email about setting up time to chat, yeah.
Ladies, do you have any questions to ask of Doug? If there's nothing else, then this special meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.